All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Had quite a few people joining here. I think we got everyone on board, and we're going to go ahead and kick off this month's safety meeting. So first off, thank you for joining. We appreciate everyone this morning. We hope everyone's having a good summer so far. In terms of an accident prevention situation, obviously the first concern is in the South right now, obviously with the hurricanes. We hope everyone is safe. I haven't seen the news yet this morning, but I know yesterday when I saw it was starting to rev up and be pretty bad. So if you're in those areas or driving through, maybe try to get a different route or go a different route. But we sure hope and pray that everyone is safe out down there. So let me share my screen here because we're going to talk about a few subjects this morning. Let's see here. And we're going to have David kick us off. We're going to talk about some things we've talked about before, but it's always good reminders in regards to complacency, taking medications while you're working, and also just remember make sure you keep your medical card and driver's license up to date. It's the number one and two things that are probably the most important aspects of your job in terms of keeping current and obviously keeping them on file with the DMV. But outside of that, we're going to kick off the other couple subjects and we'll show a video later on as well. David?
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? I want to talk this morning a little bit about over-the-counter drugs. And most of the time, over-the-counter drugs are lesser potency of drugs that are prescription. So almost the same ingredients that you would get in a prescription. If it's a lower dose, they say that it's over-the-counter. Okay, you can just take that. But you need to read the labels and make sure that it does not affect your driving in terms of, it'll tell you do not operate equipment. It's required by law that it tells you not to operate equipment or to be safe in certain areas while you're working if you are taking the over-the-counter drugs. Over-the-counter drugs, if you're taking things for like sinus or cold or anything like that, tend to make you drowsy, and that's the last thing you really want if you're out there on the road. Even if it's illegal for you to take it, you can still have an accident and have that be the cause of you losing your license. You're not supposed to be taking those things. Even like I said, even if you have a prescription drug and your prescription drug says that you're not supposed to operate equipment, then you really can't take that. You need to stay at home and do what it is you have to do in order to get better. Okay. The other thing is, I've noticed in the news that there are people taking supplements and drugs and things to counteract COVID. I want to make it perfectly clear, there are no drugs other than the ones prescribed that will counteract COVID. I've seen on a couple of websites, there's one particular doctor who is into natural things, Dr. Mercola, who is also anti-vax. He's also anti-vax. He's been anti-vax for a long time, and he is now saying that if you eat properly and you exercise and you rest and all of that, you will not get COVID. None of that is true. If you think that is the case, you need to really investigate. The vaccines that are developed, I've heard people say that the reason that the vaccine, we don't know what the effects are. Okay, these vaccines this is not new. The process for doing the vaccine has been in the works for 19 years. This is a new process, but all they've done is taken the RNA. I don't know if you know what DNA is, what your body is made of, but RNA is what tells your DNA what to do. Okay, and what they've done is taken the RNA, which is not the disease itself, taken the RNA, which is the instructions for the disease, and put that in the form of it's called memory RNA, and they put that in the vaccine. So unlike any vaccines you have ever gotten, where you've either gotten a live version or a dead version of the disease itself, because that's what inoculation is, you're not getting that with this. This is just the instructions. And what happens is your body says, okay, this is the instructions. So when I see this, I'm going to attack it. So even though the prescription, the vaccination has been new, the research behind it has been going on for like 19 years. And from now on, no COVID, no vaccine will be given that is either alive or dead. It will all be from memory RNA. That's ceased now. Now, to show you the potency of memory RNA, they're now using memory RNA and what's called CRISPR to eliminate sickle cell anemia. So that's how powerful this research is. So if you're thinking that, yeah, I'm going to take this or I'm going to take that, which will help me with it, no, it's not effective, especially against the D variant, Delta. Delta is twice as it's twice as easy to catch it than the original COVID, the Delta variant, and it is more virulent. If you think that you can have the COVID and get over it and be okay, look up long COVID-19. People who have had it have lost their taste, lost their sense of smell, which means that no matter what you put in your mouth, you can't taste it. You don't know what it is. You don't know the difference between water and tequila. You can't tell the difference. It's also affected their breathing in some cases for long term. It has affected their kidneys, their liver. All of your organ functions can be affected by COVID in the long term, even though you survived it. Like I said, if you think this is something that you can just get over, it's not going to happen. Go online and look at long COVID-19, and you'll see all the people who have had it and gotten over it and now have these long-term disabilities. Okay? The only supplement that has ever been recommended by the CDC to fight COVID is vitamin D3. And vitamin D3 is the sunshine vitamin. It is what you get from being in the sun, and it affects your immune system. It's directly connected to the immune system. So I take approximately 10,000 IUs. I take 5,000 IUs in the morning, and I take 5,000 IUs at night to help my immune system. And it's not necessarily for COVID, but it is if you happen to catch COVID, some of your other illnesses, and you might be susceptible to those as well. So I'm preventing me being susceptible to all of the others. I learned to use this when I was teaching school, and all the teachers would get sick, but not me, because I was taking about D3. So I've passed that on to other teachers. But that's the only one the CDC has said will help you with CDC. Now, there are people who are taking I can't remember Iverican or something like that. This stuff it's to remove parasites in animals. It is not for human consumption to begin with. And now there is a whole epidemic of people who are coming into the hospital haven't taken this stuff, either in pill form or taking the liquid form. There is nothing that can help prevent getting COVID except the vaccine. Okay. Over-the-counter drugs don't help you with that. And if you are panicking about COVID, get your inoculation. A lot of people don't understand this. This is a little history thing I'm going to give you. When the United States was fighting the British during the Revolutionary War, the British came over and they had brought with them smallpox. Now, the soldiers that came over were immune to smallpox because there had been a lot of people that died in Europe from smallpox, and the ones who survived were basically immune to it, but they brought it to the United States. George Washington recognized that 90% of the people who were dying from smallpox, not from bullets or death by the British. So he ordered that every soldier had to be inoculated against smallpox. So we won the Revolutionary War because George Washington required everybody to get inoculation against smallpox. So people who talk about they're anti-vax, we wouldn't even have a country if it wasn't for vaccination. Okay, so enough preaching about that. I get really upset about it when people talk about how vaccines aren't effective and how they're afraid of it and it's going to kill somebody and all of that. There's about 700 cases of people who have serious after effects from getting the vaccination out of 200 million shots. Okay, so yeah, there's a possibility, but you have more of a possibility of being killed on a highway in an accident than you have of being damaged by the vaccination. Okay, the next subject I want to talk about is complacency. We've talked about this before. I had you do the breathing exercises where you had to really think about breathing and how breathing is such a basic thing that we really don't think about it at all. I'm going to give you an example of an accident that happened 2 years ago. I don't know if I told you, but I was on the accident review committee of the American Truckers Association. And this is an accident that happened in January of 2019. FedEx truck coming from Woodbridge, New Jersey, was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. This was at 4 a.m. in the morning. Okay, it was raining, and the driver was driving approximately 45 miles an hour. He was passed by a passenger bus that was going about 70 miles an hour. And the reason they know that is the NTSB, having looked at the video and knowing the speed of the frames, determined that because it was on the video for the truck. As the bus went by, the bus was going approximately 70 miles an hour. The driver, recognizing that this was not a good situation, actually slowed down to about 45. And a mile and a half later, he comes upon a dark object laying across the highway, completely across the highway. What had happened is the bus had turned over on its side. The bottom was facing the highway. It had turned over on the side. So the driver, all he saw in his headlights and in the rain was this black thing across the highway. Slowed down to approximately 10 to 12 miles an hour. Hit the bus slightly. Moved it a couple 3 feet. Okay? But he was aware and alert and understanding that this was a situation because he was paying attention and not being complacent about being on the road. Now, unfortunately, 2 UPS trucks coming from behind him, doing also 70 miles an hour, ran into the back of the FedEx trailer, killing both UPS drivers. There was one truck hit, and then another one hit. Both of those drivers died. The UPS drivers survived. Both of them survived. And the NTSB recently, I'm pointing this out, the NTSB recently reported that the driver of the FedEx truck actually saved lives. If he had not stopped and barely hit the truck, that bus would have been hit by those two UPS trucks doing 70 miles an hour in the rain. They said that in their comments, and it took them 2 years to investigate this and get it all done. But they said that in their comments, this driver actually saved lives. Okay? So, you cannot be complacent. You never know when or where something's going to happen. You've got to pay attention all the time. So when you're in the truck and you're thinking you're traveling down a familiar road that you've been down before a million times, and you know where all the little bumps are, you know where all the signs are, and you know where people come in and you know where people come out, you never know. You need to stay alert the entire time, and that means you need to get your rest. You need to be careful of your eating patterns so that you're not, as I said before, eating and thinking require the most blood. You need to have your eating patterns so that your stomach is not full and you become drowsy because of that. You need to exercise and stay in good shape. You need to eat healthily, and you need to cut back on the stimulants. I mean, you can have some coffee, but they come down, especially sugar drinks. I have a driver who drinks nothing but Gatorade. Well, that's all sugar. And what happens after a while, after you drink a lot of sugar, you have the come down. And the come down will make you just as drowsy or drowsier than you were before you actually started drinking. So all of these things need to be in your mind while you're driving down the road. You need to be checking your mirrors every 8 to 10 seconds. You need to be aware of who is next to you, whether you can move over one lane or not. If something happened on that side, do you have space to move over? Do you have enough space so that you can brake safely? Do you have enough space so that if you need to change any position that you can do it? Is someone coming into your area that would prevent you from doing that? It's a constant thing. There's no faking it, fooling around with it. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean that you can relax. You need to stay alert. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions?
I had a question. Can a driver potentially get a DUI for for taking over-the-counter medication?
Absolutely. Under the influence means just that. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have a drug, a prescription drug. It just means you have something in your system that impairs your driving ability.
Good deal. Something to remember, everyone. Just it's a terrible way to kind of mess up your career for something like that. Any other questions out there? If you have any questions, just unmute yourself. All right, we're going to show a video to kind of go along with this as well. So 1 second here.
In your health headlines, in light of Tiger Woods' arrest and subsequent blaming on prescription pills for his DUI, we wanted to take a closer look at possible reactions to some of these strong medications prescribed by doctors. Dr. Mitchell Goldman with UCSD is here with us now to help us sort it out. Thanks for being here, Dr. G.
It's good to be here, Kathleen.
Well, as you know, a DUI really used to just indicate drunk driving, but more and more we're hearing about drug driving, and it's not just illegal narcotics. You say there are a lot of medications that don't mix with driving.
There really are, and driving under the influence means the influence of anything that can impair your ability to drive. Now, almost all of us know that if you have an alcohol level that's extreme, you're going to be impaired. But what people don't realize is that many not only prescription drugs, but over-the-counter drugs like Benadryl and the antihistamines can also cause drowsiness. And studies have shown that only 27% of all Americans realize that actual medications can impair driving.
And why is that, Dr. G? Is it the pharmacy's responsibility, the patient's? Is it the doctor's?
You know, it's basically all of us. Of course, common sense means that if a patient is acting more sluggish and feels like they're not all there, they should know that they should not be behind the wheel. And that's why Tiger actually pulled over, stopped, and went to sleep, which was, of course, much better than driving. But what pharmacists need to do, and what pharmacists do, is they tell the patients, and they have all these written materials about what drugs are safe and what can cause impairment. Now, the problem becomes that many people are getting prescription drugs through the mail. And if you're getting prescription drugs over the internet, those kinds of drugs like for anxiety or for pain that can really impede our ability to have quick reactions, we don't usually talk to a pharmacist because we're getting them on mail.
That's a really good point, but also using more than one medication is a situation a lot of people are experiencing as well, and that can be a dangerous cocktail, and we don't know how they intersect.
You know, absolutely, Kathleen, and that's why what people should do is when you're taking any medication, whether it's an over-the-counter, whether it's an herbal medicine that you think is safe, or of course a prescription medicine, before you get behind the wheel, take the medication, sort of see how you feel. If you feel tired, if you feel a little sluggish, if you feel like you're not reacting, that's when you need to actually go not behind the wheel. So things like sleepiness, blurred visions, dizziness, those are things that we can tell by ourselves that we shouldn't be behind the wheel. Because when we get behind the car, we have to realize that a car is like a lethal weapon. It's a few tons of material that goes at speed. And the last thing you want to do is not only hit another car, but God forbid, hit a pedestrian or a cyclist, because then you're causing lots of bodily injury, and you don't want that to happen.
That's right. And also just underscoring that over-the-counter medications you're innocently taking for allergies, really read all about those side effects.
Absolutely, Kathleen.
Dr. G, thank you so much.
Good to be here.
All right, it was a good video to reconfirm all the points that David brought up. Yeah, and then too, as we get ready to go into wintertime here pretty soon, you see these things are very common, people getting sick. But I think one thing we should have learned in the last year or so with the pandemic is taking care of ourselves has to be a very high priority in our lives. Whatever that might mean, if it's changing up eating habits, exercising, being outdoors, trying to take in some sunlight, just switching up things that we normally maybe didn't do in the past, but trying to add those things to our daily regimen to be about a better people. So thank you guys. Zine, you guys have anything else?
Yes, real quick, there's another reading from Protective Insurance that talks about the deadlines of complacency. To us, that's very important because we don't want to bring the wrong impression. So it is in the email I sent them when I created the invitation for the training. So take time to read it as well. And let's talk about it. Thank you for being so thorough with the over-the-counter medicines, because now everybody's like kind of scared and are taking more medicines than before. So we really need to be very careful. For FedEx updates, we've been sending information about the transition to the mobile trip app. And that needs to be, it's going to start on September 1st. So we really need that everybody start using the username, the password, feel comfortable with the whatever instructions you guys have. If you need more instructions, let us know. Amado, and I think that Jose, and who else? Did you work with it, Ruben? Did you already play with it a little bit? Okay, Ian, Amado, and Jose are the ones that I know for sure that they've been working with that. So if you have questions, please feel free to contact them. Thank you, Jose. I'm sorry I put you on the spot. And then for Lugmo updates, please, 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 it's back to school time. There's more traffic, there's storms, there is harsh weather. Please be really careful when you are in driving in the city and in the highway, okay? And then accident, last time we talked about the accident reportability guideline, and we talked a little bit about the animals. I sent an email and I'm still asking for clarifications, but most likely they understand that if, as we've been talked before, if you hit a small animal and you don't hit or try to maneuver to hit other cars, then should not be reportable. But when you maneuver and you hit other cars, or it's because you're not paying attention, and in the video it shows that you don't pay attention and you cause hurt to other people, then it's when it's recordable. It's most likely their impressions, but we are looking for more clarifications on that. The next in the agenda talks about what is excluded. And what is excluded, they mention if you are parked properly with your triangles and somebody hit you, then it's excluded because you was parked correctly, you have your triangles, and you were not causing any problem because you was parked correctly. The other one, it's basically the same thing, disabled fleet motor vehicle. It talks about disabled, not considered properly parked unless it is off the main travel portion of the highway and require emergency warning devices. So if your truck is not working properly, once again, and you have your triangles, you should be okay. If somebody hit you, it should not be your fault. And then the other one says exclusions of wear and tear. Damage excluded minor with a bumper, rub rails, wear and tear, and importance of bending, crushing, and breaking of the fleet motor vehicle components. That one I don't understand very well. Just try to read it. If you have any question on that one, let me know. David, if you know what the exclusion on wear and tear is, feel free to jump in. But it says it's excluded. And the other one says exclusion of no damage or injuries.
Yeah, go back over that again, the first part that you asked me about.
It's number 3 in here. It says exclusion of wear and tear, damage excluded, minor cuts with a bumper. This is rub rails, etc. It said which over long periods leads to an accumulation of minor damage known as wear and tear. It says any instance of bending, crushing, or breaking of fleet motor vehicle components is not considered wear and tear damage. And is not covered by this exclusion and shall be reported.
Yeah, that means that normal wear and tear is okay, but if you let it keep going and you don't repair it or you don't fix it, then it becomes an issue. So it's all right if you get that a normal wear and tear, that's fine, but it needs to be fixed. You can't let it.
Oh, okay. Like you cannot let defects go without fixing them. That's what it means.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Once again, we're reading that. I'm not an expert on that. I'm just reading verbatim. If you got questions, let us know and we try to clarify them. And most of all, be careful with the storm. People who are on their way to California, pay attention to the news, and please, please, please adjust your speed, okay? Well, nothing else, Aaron.
All right. Well, we thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Hopefully you guys take the information that was discussed today and apply it to your lives. It's the most important part of getting information. So be safe out there. We'll talk again next month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.